Okay, I think we're about to start. Yeah. Welcome, everyone, to Let Your Intuition Lead You to Love. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm sure many of you do, let me just grab my book. I am the author of this book, How to Fall in Love, a 10-Step Journey to the Heart. I am a transformational coach. I specialize in love, dating, and relationships, and also in life and career transition. So I work with people who want to change their lives, have a more fulfilling career, or find a fulfilling, healthy relationship. And much of my work draws on my own experience. So my experience that I write about in my book, many years of a dysfunctional relationship with myself. So self-harm, binge eating, binge drinking, adrenaline junkie, lots of global travel, lots of excitement, but also lots of self-harm. And also dysfunctional relationships. So throughout I've just noticed my phone is on, so I'm going to switch that off. Throughout my dating life and my relationship history, there were lots of dysfunctional relationships with men who couldn't commit to me, who weren't available, who weren't willing, and also the ones who were interested, willing, and kind and generous, I ran away from them. And as some of you know, that has all changed. I have overcome my binge eating disorder, and I no longer binge drink, and I have transformed my relationship with myself to practice self-care and self-love, and I have finally fallen in love, and I got married in June this year. So yeah, that's a brief summary of who I am and how I got here. And this webinar has come from some of my coaching calls in recent weeks. It really struck me that this topic of intuition, how we can connect to our intuition, how we can trust our intuition, and why we so often ignore our intuition. So that has come up a lot in my coaching calls with clients who are working on dating and relationships, or who are looking to change their lives and their careers. And it's a good topic for me because traditionally I really struggled to connect to my intuition. I was a chronically indecisive. I was prone to asking absolutely everybody what I should do, what the right thing to do was. Should I date this guy or that guy? Should I commit to this relationship? Should I take that job? So I was chronically indecisive, and I asked everybody else's opinion. But as I recovered and reconnected with myself, I came to understand that I actually have a very strong intuition, very good intuition, but I was ignoring it. So that might be true for you. And I always say at the start of any of my workshops, webinars, retreats, and so forth, that you have your answers. You have your own answers. And the important thing is to connect to them, is to find a way to decipher what the inner voice is telling us. So before I go further into this webinar, I'm just going to ask you to join me in a brief exercise. Just going to check that. So I'd like you to, just join me in a brief exercise. Before I go there, just for those who joined a few minutes late, there will be questions at the end of this webinar. You can ask those questions by unmuting yourself. Everyone is on mute right now, or you can ask them by placing them in the chat box. So at the bottom of your screen, you will see chat, and you can type your questions there. So that will come later. But first, I'd like you to join me in a short exercise to connect to ourselves. So if you're traveling or if you're moving, you won't be able to close your eyes. But if you are able to close your eyes, I'd like you to close them now. And I'm going to do the same. And as you close your eyes, I'd like you to connect to your breath. So that means to focus on your breath wherever you can feel it most. We are all different. For you, that might be in your chest, in your tummy, in your nose, in your mouth. Right now, I can feel my breath most in my nose and in my mouth. So connect to the breath. No need to breathe deeply or to make any special effort. Try to tune into the breath as it is. I'd now like you to take your hand and place it across your heart or across your chest or in between the two. So place your hand where you think you connect most to your truth, to your wisdom. That might also be on your tummy. You might want to place your hand against your belly. I like to put my hand here across my chest, connecting my heart and my chest. Now I'd like you to take your focus to where you have your hand and then try and peer beyond it. Try to look within. And I'd like you to see if you can access any feelings. How do you feel right now? Now, you might not be in a good place to feel. You might be running around, walking on a bus, but see if you can pause and connect to any feelings. So this, generally when we do this, this is the top level of feelings. So for me right now, it would be adrenaline, anxiety, excitement, gratitude perhaps. And then we look deeper. So imagine that you are going down a level. You are going deeper. So you're peering even more into that place. And then what feelings do you find there? And can you go a level deeper again? And what feelings can you find there? Anything else? So I like to do this exercise because so often we don't stop to feel, or we stay at the top level. So for me, the lower levels, there's some anxiety, but a deeper anxiety than the day-to-day running a webinar. There's anxiety about life, about difficult choices. And then below that, for me, right now, there's always a layer of sadness because of circumstances in my life, my mum being unwell. So that's always there right now. It won't always be there, but these days it is. Sometimes we feel empty, sometimes we feel scared, lonely. So see what you can access. So hold on to those thoughts and feelings. You can jot them down if you like on a notepad. And then gently take your focus back to your breath. And tune into your breath again. And then count to 3. And then you can open your eyes. So I'd love to know if you got any feelings. If you would like to share any feelings, please post them in the chat box. You can chat to me or you can chat to everyone. But I wonder, yes, I am recording. Thank you. I wonder how often you pause to do that exercise or any similar exercise. I wonder how often in your life you take time to slow down, to feel your feelings, and to connect to your truth, to your inner voice, to your intuition, which is what this webinar is all about. So just notice how often you have paused like that this week. Have you already done that today? Did you do it yesterday? Will you do it tomorrow? So this is really important for me, and this is part of connecting to my intuition, because for most of my, through my teens and 20s and into my mid-30s, I was completely disconnected from myself and from my feelings. So I couldn't connect to how I was feeling. I was always running. I was always rushing. I was always, I was always binge eating, numbing my feelings, binge drinking, overworking, over delivering, exhausting myself. So I was completely disconnected from my feelings. So this is the first important step when it comes to connecting to our intuition. It is all about slowing down, sitting still, doing some meditation perhaps, and connecting to our feelings, to our truth. It's impossible to connect to ourselves if there's noise going on all the time, if we're looking at our screens, if we're constantly texting, all those things. It's very difficult to connect to ourselves. I'm just reading, I'm just reading that some of you have done it. Some of you are connected like that this week, or you haven't done it all this week. We need to do it every day. So just remember that, and it's very simple. And if there's one simple thing you can take away from this, is the importance of slowing down like that. And believe me, I am far from perfect when it comes to this. I much prefer to get up, go down the beach and have a swim. And actually that's a really good way for me to connect to my intuition, to be in nature, to be outdoors, to be amongst the universe, something much bigger than me, to sense peace, to see the sun, to see the water. But I also need to sit still because I like to be in constant motion. So just remember the importance of sitting still, and promise yourself that you'll do that every day for the rest of this week and see how that goes. So back to intuition. So what is intuition? Well, intuition is our brain on autopilot. It is our subconscious communicating to our conscious. So we have this analytical brain, and if you're anything like me, you'll be really good at analysis, so good that you will get to analysis paralysis. You'll be overthinking, you'll be over questioning, you'll be trying to work things out with lists of pros and cons, but it's very difficult to find your intuition amongst all of that. So the intuition is the subconscious brain that communicates with the conscious brain. And generally it knows the answer before we work it out. So it's really important to make space for it, to connect to it. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, I'd just like to say to you all that I imagine that you are all you're really intuitive people, that you have a strong intuition, but perhaps you don't allow yourselves to believe that. Now, I didn't think I had an intuition. I didn't think I could, sorry, I'm reading the chat as I go along, and clearly multitasking isn't the easiest thing to do, but thank you for your comments and questions. Yeah, by avoiding our feelings, that's not good for us, because we can't connect to ourselves. So why do we ignore our intuition? Why do we sometimes override it and feel it? Well, I want to explain why I did that. So when I was little, I was intuitive. I was a sensitive, intuitive girl, and I said what I thought, as children do. So children are really spontaneous. They say what is on their heart, and they just say it without thinking about the consequences. So there was one occasion when I was probably 7 or 8, and I was in the presence of some adults in my life. And I'm not going to go into the details, because out of respect for the privacy of those adults, they're not here to defend themselves. But I was young and in the presence of some adults in my life. And I sensed that something they were doing I didn't like. I didn't like how they were behaving. I didn't feel safe. So I said so. I said, I wish you wouldn't behave like that. I wish you wouldn't do that. And the response wasn't positive at all. The response was anger and also denial. So don't be silly. I'm not doing that. Don't be silly. I'm not behaving that way. Kind of, you're making it up. Don't be foolish. You've got it wrong. So as you can imagine, for a little girl who thought that she had connected to her intuition and her truth, who had spoken out her truth to the adults in good faith, and then was very confusingly told that she was wrong, that she was silly, that she didn't have a clue what she was talking about. And so I am left thinking, gosh, was that my intuition? Can I trust my intuition? Clearly I'm wrong. And also, when we're in that situation, when we're young and there are adults around us who are speaking at us or to us. So these adults are these godlike figures. They're much bigger than us, and we depend on them for our survival. So what they say is word. What they say is the truth, because that's how it is when we're little. So when somebody tells you to that your reality, your perception of reality is wrong, and you're a little girl and they're a big person, they're a grown-up, you believe it. And then from that moment, you make the decision that you can't trust yourself, that you can't trust your perception of reality. And you start making excuses for other people, even though something inside you says something's not right here. And when I say that, I actually rub my tummy. So something inside me, in my gut, tells me there's something not right here. But I can't say so, because when I did in the past, it went really wrong. I was shouted at. My survival was threatened because the adults, are taking care of me. And I was told that my perception of reality was confused. So from that moment, we no longer trust ourselves. We no longer think it's safe to speak our truth. And we question our perception of reality. So this is really unfortunate, as I discovered. So we go into adulthood not trusting ourselves. We are on really shaky ground. We are on wobbly foundations. We don't have a strong sense of self, a strong sense of what's right or wrong, because we've been told otherwise. And that means we lose ourselves. We don't call things out when we see them. So when something upsets us or we think it's wrong, we don't say so, because we think we have got it wrong. We question ourselves. We also go through life asking everyone else's opinion. And I smile when I say that, because I think mostly through my 20s and 30s, I asked everybody else what they thought about my life, about my love life, about my career. I asked everyone else what they thought, because I couldn't trust myself. But then you end up with so many decisions, so many choices, drowning in other people's opinions, and you can't find your own. So there's another exercise I'd like you to do. And we're not going to have a great deal of time for this, but you can continue it once this webinar is finished. So I hope you have a little notebook with you and a pen, or you can type into your phone or your computer, or simply hold this question in your heart and see what you come up with. So, was there a time in your childhood, adolescence, early adulthood, late adulthood, when you trusted your intuition, when you were natural, courageous, real, said what you thought, said what you were feeling, called something out, and somebody shouted you down, told you you were wrong, told you that you were mistaken, denied what was happening, or questioned your view of reality? So I'd like you to answer that. Now, it's quite a big question. You might not come up with an answer instantly, but I'd like you to take that away with you. If you can recognize an experience, you're very welcome to type that in the chat box, either privately to me or to privately to me or to the group, and I'll take a look at that. But I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that. So just take out your pen and try and connect with one of those experiences. And as you connect to that experience, if you can, notice how it feels in your body. Frightening? Does it give you goosebumps? Can you feel anxious? Can you feel the anxiety? Okay, so somebody has lots of experiences. Thank you. I'm sad to hear that, but that is, when we have lots of those experiences, that is the basis of a disconnection from our intuition, from ourselves. And maybe as you do this exercise, you can feel empathy for the child or the adolescent or the adult. We have to feel it to heal it. So even if it brings up some grief or sadness, surprise, shock, a sense of loss, we have to feel it to heal it. If you're watching this on the recording, you're welcome to press pause at this part and carry on working on this exercise. But I think this is really important. I'm just going to carry on talking now. If you are still writing, please carry on. Otherwise, pause and come back to this piece of writing later or another day. I think it's really important to connect to these experiences. I'm just going to see. So somebody has said that when they're told that one person is not being given preferential treatment, when it's very clear that they are. It's very, misleading, confusing, and we doubt ourselves. And that's the problem. We doubt ourselves when actually our intuition is absolutely right. So this came up recently with a coaching client in the area of dating. So what was happening was this person was making excuses for poor behavior. So I wonder if you have been out with someone who treated you badly, or who didn't step up, or who didn't show up. And I definitely have. So I remember a time when I was dating a man in, this was in my early 40s. And I sensed in my intuition, that there was something flaky about him, that he wasn't making much effort with arrangements. He didn't seem to want to hang out very often. He was hard to pin down. And my intuition, and by this stage, I'd done loads of work on myself. So my intuition was telling me there's something not right in this situation. I want to be in a committed relationship, but he feels really flaky. Now, normally in the past, I would have totally overridden my intuition. I would have made excuses for him. Oh, you know, he's a bit younger than me, and he'll learn, or it's just a phase, or it's not that bad. It's not that bad, because actually I am so desperate to be in a relationship. I so want to be loved and touched that I'm just going to ignore my intuition and say it's not that bad. So we make excuses for people, and that's what some of my clients have said that they have done, and I absolutely understand. I have been there too. So we make excuses for people, and we end up in relationships, romantically, in work, where we're overriding our intuition, not standing up for ourselves, not speaking our truth. So if this is your story, we need to heal the backstory. We need to get back to that place where we overrode, where our intuition was ignored, shouted down, or where we were told we weren't right. And we need to start to connect to our perception of reality and believe in it. So going back to that guy who I thought was flaky, I managed to call him out. Not quite like that, but I managed to sit him down and tell him, this is what I would like. This is what I am looking for in a relationship. My needs are for a committed relationship. Somebody who is willing to commit, who's going to be with me, who'd like to plan weekends away with me. And then I said to him, what is your idea of a relationship? What are you looking for? And I did all this before I jumped into bed with him, which was really a good idea, because what happens often is when we get physical with somebody, we lose contact with our intuition. All the grey mist descends, as I often say, and we just override everything in us. And because we're longing. So I managed to have this conversation. I gave him some time to go away and think about it. And eventually he did, and it took him a while. I waited. He came back and he said, no, he didn't want to be in a committed relationship. He wanted to just hang out now and then. So basically he was happy to be flaky. I wasn't happy with that, and that was the end. And it was really difficult. I was really sad because I had ended something that a relationship that I was enjoying. I found him very attractive. But my intuition was right from the start. And I managed to hear it and to trust it and to speak up before I got too involved. So this is why, right now I'm talking about relationships, but I think this is relevant to all areas of our lives. So this is why we proceed with caution. We keep checking in with ourselves. What is that feeling? What is that tap on my shoulder? What is that feeling in my gut? Is it telling me to move into this situation? Is it telling me to walk away? Slowly, as we start to trust that voice, slowly we gain confidence in our intuition. Now, we might have to make some mistakes, and this is the problem. So in the old days, I still don't like making mistakes, but in my past, I absolutely hated making any form of mistakes. I was a complete perfectionist, and I still am to a degree, but we have to take a risk. We have to maybe make mistakes. So we have to try and tune into ourselves, make a decision and see what happens. And we make calculated risks. We take baby steps, small steps, but we have to try. And it's so important to stop, gathering 300 opinions, because that takes so much energy and time and effort. And then we're left feeling absolutely confused. So it's good to sound things out with trusted people. And you might want to do that with 1 or 2 people who you trust, who don't have an agenda for you. But ultimately, you bring that back to yourself. You sit still, you meditate, you journal, you write it all out. Perhaps you imagine yourself in one scenario. How does that feel? How does that feel in my body? If I imagine myself in that relationship or in that new house or in that new job, how does it feel in my body? If I imagine myself in that other situation, how does that feel? You can write it out. You can meditate, you can allow the feelings to come. So I'm just going to look at my notes for a moment. Yeah, we need to build up our confidence in ourselves, in our truth, in our perception, because we are all really perceptive people. It might be just that that was quashed, that was squashed by somebody in our lives. So there's something else that's really important when it comes to intuition, especially in the area of dating and relationships, but I think in all areas. So the question is it my fear or is it my instinct? So I ask this in my book, and the good news is that you have your answer. You have your answer. The most important thing is to ask the question. So what happened in my in my earlier years is I never asked the question whether it was my fear or my instinct. I just assumed it was always my fear when I wanted to leave a relationship or leave a situation. I always assumed it was my fear. No, I always assumed it was my instinct. So whenever I got like that feeling of I've got to get out of here, I must leave, I've got to get out of here, I always assumed it was my instinct. But actually I came to understand that it could be my fear. So let me give you an example of my now relationship, my marriage to my lovely partner. So there were times in our relationship when I had the strongest feeling that I had to get out of it. I had to get out of it. I couldn't come near him. I didn't want to kiss him. I felt repelled by him. Now, if I describe that to you and you're one of my best friends, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? I'm just checking on the comments. What are you going to say to that question? If I say, oh, I'm desperate to leave, everything in my body tells me to leave. You're going to say, get out, aren't you? You're going to say, leave. But actually, what if that is my fear? What if I am afraid of commitment? What if I am afraid of intimacy? And that is what happened in my situation with my partner. So there was a moment, I'm absolutely truthful, there was a moment when I felt repelled, that I couldn't kiss him, that I needed to leave. I was doing a lot of work on myself. I was getting a lot of support. I had an amazing therapist. I had lots of people to help me. And they were helping me to see that my fear had kept me out of relationships all the way through my dating life, or they had drawn me into relationships with people who couldn't commit to me. And what I needed to do was to work through my fears. So I stayed and I sat with the fear and I sat with the discomfort of thinking, I'm not sure I want to be with this guy. I feel, I feel repelled in this moment. I've got to get out of here. And I sat with that fear. And you know what? That fear dissipated. That fear left me. And ultimately, I was, once I got through that fear, I was absolutely committed to him. So committed that I got married. And I don't have those feelings anymore. In the early days of our relationship, I kept having them, kept thinking, gosh, I need to get out of here. But then they dissipated. As I walked through those fears, they left me completely. And, I was on the radio the other day and the presenter asked me if on my wedding day, I had had any doubts about what I was doing, who I was marrying. And I could honestly say that no, I didn't. My intuition and my brain and everything was entirely aligned. And that's an absolute miracle. You didn't know me when I was 32 or 36 or I was totally all over the place when it came to decisions. I still find decisions difficult, but I would run around town asking millions of people, especially when it came to relationships. I trusted everyone else's decision over mine. So is it your fear or is it your instinct? Is it your fear or is it your instinct? And perhaps you can look back over some of your relationships. And now I don't want to cause you any pain by making you think that you should have stayed in one that you got out of, or vice versa, because you are where you are for a reason. And, we have to move forwards from here. But we learn from our mistakes and we learn from our past experiences. And what intuition does is it gathers information from our past experiences and helps us to make a decision. But the problem is that fear does exactly the same thing. Fear gathers all those past experiences and tells you this is a really bad idea. And why was I so afraid of relationship? Well, I'm sure many of you have had similar experiences of getting your heart broken very early on in life. Now, that could be by a partner, by a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or my first experience of having my heart broken was when I was a little girl and being sitting on my dad's knee and him telling me that he was moving out and he was going to live with my gran, his mum. And I thought it was something that I had done. I thought it was my fault. I thought I wasn't attractive enough. And my heart broke. My heart probably broke before that because I was struggling to get the connection that I wanted and needed. But that was quite a defining moment. I can see it. I can see that image. So of course, our brain is telling us, and our subconscious, they are telling us, why on earth would you want to do that again? It hurt. It hurt really badly. So we need to stay aware of this difference between the fear and the instinct. And sometimes we have to move through our fears. We have to move through our fears. So have a think right now about this difference between fear and instinct. Do you think it feels different in your body? I'll come back to that in a moment, but have a think about that. I'm just going to check the chat, and I am also going to look at my notes. So that's interesting that a few people have said that I should have left my now husband, get out of there. And obviously when I was sharing this experience with friends, that's what they would say. Can't be right. It can't be right. And, I've only been married 4 months. So who knows? But as I said, on my wedding day, I was absolutely sure. And I'm still absolutely sure that I have married the right man. There's a question here, which I'll get to. Yeah, so if we're in a relationship with someone who we know isn't good for us, who isn't available, yeah. So the problem with that is, okay, there's a few questions. I'm going to come back to them in a moment. I'm just going to deal with this one and then I'll come back to the others. So the problem is when we're in a relationship with somebody who isn't available to us, it often feels amazing. It feels really, really good, especially if we're afraid of commitment. So I have been in lots of relationships with people who are afraid of commitment, and it felt amazing. Hollywood, passion, always dying to see them. It felt amazing because there was no possibility of that relationship working out because the person was with someone else. They were unavailable. Even if they promised to leave that person, they were still unavailable. So in my case, I had to, as much as possible, leave that situation, go cold turkey. Now, if you have to see that person on a daily basis, that's going to be really difficult. So there is, as much as possible, remove ourselves from the situation, but also work on ourselves, because it's likely that if we are drawn to someone who is unavailable, who cannot commit to us, it's likely that we are afraid of commitment. Now, I've got an entire course that covers some of these issues, and I'll talk about that in a moment, because these are really difficult questions. Now, I'm going to come back to some of your questions in a moment. How do you know if it's your fear or your instinct? Somebody shared about fear being low in the stomach, intuition slightly higher. There's a lot of evidence that the intuition actually does sit or is connected to our gut, because in our gut we have lots of I can't remember what they call them. Well, we have the microbiome, but we have lots of receptors in our gut that send messages to our brain. So that's why it's called the gut instinct. So I'm just going to check my notes. I am going to come to those questions. And I'm just going to tell you about something that might help. So yeah, just to sum up what I've been saying, understanding ourselves and our past experiences is really important. So why did we develop mistrust of our intuition? Did somebody tell us that we were wrong when we were very young? Practice following your intuition. Just practice listening to yourself and seeing what happens, taking calculated risks. Often asking for time out. So if you need to make a decision and you're not sure if it's your fear or if it's your instinct, take some time away. Take some time away and say, I'll get back to you on that, or I need some space. Remove yourself from the situation. When we're busy, when we're rushed, when we're angry, when we're depressed, when we've got a lot of feelings going on, it's very difficult to connect to our intuition. And also one thing that will cause us to override our intuition is if we are craving. If we are dating with a craving, if we are craving validation at work, or if we are craving love in a relationship, if we haven't fed ourselves from the inside out, then we are likely to override our intuition. We'll get all the red flags, all the little signals, but we won't listen to them. So I'm going to come back to your questions in a moment, but I'm just going to pause just to tell you about something that might help with these questions. So I'm just going to do a quick share screen. Where's my share? Share. Okay, so hopefully you can see here my course page. So I've been working very hard. I have a number of courses that I have developed to help you to step inside and reconnect with your true self. And I have my How to Fall in Love Laying the Foundations course and a Dating with Courage, Clarity and Confidence course. So I just want to draw your attention to this first course here, Step Inside, Reconnect with Your True Self. So this is the first step of my 5-week course, which is this one here, How to Fall in Love, Laying the Foundations, which is either self-paced or it's a group course. Now, I have decided to separate out the first step of that course because I know the financial investment is a really big deal for some people. So I have this course now accessible at this offer price. So if you're interested in that, when I send round the follow-up email, you will see a link to that course, and you can take that course and then you can decide to take the bigger course, and I will discount the price from the bigger course. So it's a way to try out some of these questions, and I wonder if I can show you. I'm not sure I can. But this one, the 5-week course, How to Fall in Love Laying the Foundations, either self-paced or my group course starts next Monday, November the 11th. So that's a small group course for 10 women maximum. And it includes a one-to-one coaching session with me, 5 group coaching calls with the group of women. And if you want to try this one first, you will be able to try that in time to decide whether you want to join the bigger one. So if you have any questions about that, please get in touch. I just wanted to let you know, because this Step Inside, Reconnect with Your True Self is exactly what we're talking about right now. It's a 7-day course that will help you to reconnect to your intuition, to your truth, and to feel your feelings and understand why you have disconnected from your feelings. It will help you to lay the foundations. And then in the future steps, we explore our self-esteem. So how to strengthen our self-esteem and our self-confidence, how to change our relationship patterns and understand our patterns, and how to let go of all the blocks that we have to love and relationship. And they may include lost loves, past loves, unavailable people. And then the group course that starts on Monday. So if you'd like to know about any of those, click on the link when I send it round. And then the Dating with Confidence and Clarity course, that begins in January, but I'm also making that a self-paced course, so that will be available too. Right, I'm going to come back now to your questions and go back to full screen. Okay. So, yeah, the question that I was just referring to about being attracted to people who aren't available, gosh, it makes me feel the pain when I read it, when I think about it, because I did it over and over again. I've been in relationships with men who were married to other people. This was a long time ago. I'm not proud of it. I've been in relationships with people who were partnered to other people. I have craved relationships with people who were in relationships with others, and it's painful. It's a painful place. And that's why I wrote my book. That's why I developed those courses, to help us to stop doing that, to understand our patterns and to change our patterns. And ultimately, it all begins with ourselves, with self-knowledge, self-awareness, understanding where those patterns come from, growing our connection to ourself, what I call our inner oak tree, that strong emotional core. So there's another question here. What made me overcome my fear with my partner? It was a process of staying. So if you are someone who leaves a lot, and I was, so I must have left my relationship with my husband 3 or 4 times, looking for somebody else, thinking there was somebody better, thinking he wasn't enough, misinterpreting my fear for my instinct. So I stayed. And what I did actually, let me just have a quick sip of water. What I did actually was I decided to shelve all my angst for a bit, so for the summer. At the time I was 42, I think, and I was wondering, will I have children? Will I not have children? He didn't want children. I wasn't sure. I thought I was sure, but actually I have always been ambivalent about children, and that's a completely other topic. And I've got lots of blogs on that, and it's in my book. So I was unsure, but I decided to shelve all my angst, my baby angst, my is he the right person angst, and have fun. So we had what I call a summer of love, when I just put aside all my overthinking and my analysis paralysis. And I just enjoyed myself. We camped, we swam, we went to the beach, we went hiking. I had loads and loads of fun. Now, right at the end of that time, I did ask him if he'd changed his mind about children, and he said no. And I decided to end it again. That was for that specific reason. And then I came back a year later and understood that I wasn't sure whether I wanted children, but I knew I wanted a partnership, a lifelong relationship. And as much as I had looked and dated and looked elsewhere, I hadn't met anyone with whom I felt peaceful. So it's a really big question. And I have said this quite a lot about, it's about how we feel when we're with someone, not so much about what we think. So many of you who are watching will be career women or career men, so very professional, successful people. And we're used to thinking and working things out with our very analytical, intelligent brains. And when we do that, we stay in our head and we're absent from our heart. We're not connected to our hearts and our feelings. So what I kept coming back to with my husband was, how do I feel when I am with him? And I felt at peace. And at peace was something I had rarely felt and in my entire life. And it was something that I longed to feel. So I felt at peace. I felt calm. I felt safe. I felt happy, I felt relaxed, I felt entirely myself, that I could be entirely authentically me. So that was the importance of, you know, of staying and of connecting to my feelings. How do you know if it's your fear or your instinct? This is a really difficult one, and only you can answer the question. The important thing is that you're asking the question. So one thing is that you need to know what your fears are. And this is an exercise that I do all the time on my retreats. So I've got a retreat in Dorset in early 2020. I don't have the date yet, but I will have it soon. A retreat in Spain in March, and in Turkey, fantastic retreat holiday in October. So what are your fears in your relationships? So when we take an inventory of our fears, when we know our fears, then we can see when we're acting in a certain way, we can go, that's that fear showing up. That's that fear. And then you can see whether that's a fear that keeps repeating itself and that's turned into a pattern. So we explore our fears and our patterns. And that's something that I do on the courses. So I hope you can come and take one of those courses with me. Somebody's mentioned about being in denial about a fear of commitment. Well, that was me for probably 2 decades. If you'd have told me that I was afraid of commitment, I would have said, absolutely not. I was often dating. I was often in relationships. I wasn't running away from them. But to give you a good example, I was in a relationship for 4 years with a man who, when I ended the relationship, eventually came out as gay and is now married to his husband. So that is the ultimate in unavailability. That is the ultimate in being afraid of commitment. He is an absolutely lovely guy, and we had a lot of fun together. And but he wasn't available to me. So somebody says the fear is loud and shouty, inner wisdom is quieter and calmer. Yeah, so I was going to come to that. So often this sense of, and we need space to get to this place. We need space to find our peace, to find that sense of calm. And if we're making our decisions too quickly, if we're adrenalized, if our senses are all heightened, then maybe we need to step back and find some peace and calm. So yeah, your inner wisdom is often quieter and calmer. So feel free to ask any other questions. I'm just going to look at some that came in on email. So what do you do if you're dating someone and everything tells you that this guy isn't for you? Everything tells you that maybe he's gay, or that maybe he's unavailable, or that maybe he's a workaholic. But then all the other signs, on paper. Sorry, let me just see what's happened there. I need to go to speaker view. Just need to mute everyone. Okay. Sorry, everyone. Hopefully it'll come back to me. Not sure what's happened there. Okay, there you go. Yeah, we need to spend time with people. We can't, and this comes to another question. I think we need to spend time with people. And unfortunately, in today's dating arena, everything happens so quickly. I think we need to spend more time with people to get to know them, to understand them. We also need to spend more time with ourselves. And that is something that we don't do. Maybe because it's scary, maybe because we don't want to feel our feelings, but we don't spend time with ourselves. And the other thing that makes us, what happens, another question was, what happens if you're dating someone and at the end of the date you hug them, and even though you thought they weren't for you, you suddenly get this feeling, this frisson. Well, it is important to work out whether you are craving love, affection, companionship. And it's also important to give that person some more time, because maybe our head made the decision, but our heart is making another decision. But we do need to feed ourselves from the inside out so that we're not craving, so that we're not dating with a craving. And how do we do that? Well, that's what my courses are all about. They're about connecting to ourselves, connecting to our truth, caring for ourselves. Often if we're craving, we might need to do something like go for a massage. We need to experience touch. We need to ask our friends for a hug. We need to go to a cuddle workshop. They do exist. Have a look on meetup.com. If you're in London, there's a cuddle workshop. We need to experience touch so that we're not craving. And we need to understand, actually really get in touch with the craving, really get in touch with the loneliness, because we need to feel it. We need to feel it to heal it. So I'm wondering if there are any other questions. Okay, there's a question on, given my past experience, knowing what I know now, do I feel that personal development should be the main focus of one's life to be truly happy? Absolutely. I would probably say the relationship with yourself is the priority, and that comes through personal development. I believe that it's very difficult, you know this, it's difficult to have a relationship with someone else if we don't have a good relationship with ourselves. It's very difficult to have an enjoyable work life if we don't have a good relationship with ourselves, because we're not able to set boundaries. Boundaries is an entire week in one of my courses, because we have low self-esteem, so we override our boundaries, we override our intuition. So our relationship with ourselves is so important. So you know, I will continue to grow and to learn every day for the rest of my life, and I'm absolutely delighted about that. When I started this personal development journey, I thought, gosh, when's this going to be over? How quickly can I do it? And now I just want to learn and grow and grow and heal and challenge myself and stretch for the rest of my life. And I know that my relationship will continue, my romantic relationship will continue to improve as I do that. So there are more, there's another minute or so for questions. I am just going to show you my courses again for anyone who is interested. So this is a special offer. I'll keep it at that price. So for everyone who's going to watch this on catch up, I'll keep it, what day are we? We're on Wednesday. So I'll keep it at that price till the end of the weekend. And then the price will be going up for that small course. It's not a small course, actually. Take a look at it. It's a 7-day course. Every day you get videos, insightful videos like this, reflective exercises, and it helps you to go deeper. And I just had some lovely feedback from someone who took that course, that she feels more self-confident, more self-assured, more self-aware. She has started to date after a lot of time not dating, and she feels more connected to herself, more able to make better choices. So it really is a good self-esteem boost. And as I say, if you want to take that course as a taster of the bigger course, so that's self-paced, or of the group course, which starts on Monday, that's next Monday, November the 11th. So small group of women, weekly group coaching calls, and what else? Yeah, lots of other stuff. One-to-one session with me, and it's a really in-depth course. So do take a look at that. And as I say, if you take this course, you can subtract the money from that course. There is a special offer on the big course also, which is £40 off using the code gratitude gift. And I will put all this in the email with the recording. And then the Dating with Courage, Clarity and Confidence course, that's starting in January, but will be available as a self-paced soon. This big course is also starting again in January. If you'd like to, try out, if you haven't read my book, I think you'd find it really helpful. I talk about my journey. I talk about trust. I talk about intuition. and about feeling our feelings. So you might want to try that. I'm just coming back to the full screen and to a question. Somebody who says that they cling to unavailable men because they're worried they won't ever meet anyone. How do we stop clinging? We feel the pain. Gosh, it's, you know, this is deep stuff, which is why my courses go really deep. There are no easy answers, but we have to feel why we are craving, why we are yearning. We have to feel, we have to understand why we are drawn to unavailable people. And it might be, and we are often in denial about this. So I'm sorry if I'm waking you up, but I'm not sorry, because this is ultimately a good thing. We have to understand why we are drawn to, we have to understand that we might be unavailable ourselves. We might be scared of commitment ourselves. So it's really important to ask that question. Am I scared of commitment? When I finish this video, you could go away and you could ask yourself, am I scared of commitment? And you might find a really good reason why. I was scared of commitment because my heart was broken when I was little. When my dad moved out, he didn't do it on purpose. And I was scared of commitment because my relationship with my mum felt suffocating. So I was doubly scared of commitment. I was also scared of commitment because I was terrified of making a mistake, of getting it wrong. We have to be really courageous. We can't do this on our own, which is why I run my group courses, which is why I offer one-to-one coaching, which is why I run a small group called the Love Ladies Community with a small monthly fee, where I support people. We have a monthly coaching call for those who are dating, entering into relationships, looking for a relationship. I'll put this in the follow-up email with some offers. So yeah, I'm coming to the end of my time. Feel free to drop any other questions in the box for the last minute or two, or to let me know how you got on. If that was helpful, you could say so. That would be really helpful. I'm going to turn this into a course. I'm going to turn this intuition question into a mini course. So look out for that. If you're not on my mailing list, please go to catherinebaldwin.com or howtofallinlove.co.uk and sign up, because if you've just logged on to Eventbrite under GDPR, I can't use your email other than to send you the follow-up email with the recording link. So if you would like to hear what's going on in my world, do sign up on my website. Yeah, thank you for the thanks. I'll just stay here a little bit longer. Yeah, somebody says they're scared of feeling their feelings, but they feel calmer and more centered after the earlier exercise. So I'm prone to carry on talking, but I'm going to have to wrap up. But I'm just going to address that question. A couple of questions. So scared to feel my feelings. I was absolutely terrified of feeling my feelings. That's why I didn't feel them. I thought if I felt them, that they would kill me, that they would be absolutely overwhelming. But I did feel them, and I felt them in little sips. And we are clever, intelligent beings. So we don't open up to all our feelings at once. We sip them. So we sip our grief, we sip our loss, we cry for a while, and then we get back to work, we get back to our lives, and then it comes again. So don't be afraid of feeling your feelings. Actually, that's an entire video in my course as well. How often do I offer the third group course? Now, if that's the How to Fall in Love, Laying the Foundations, I am offering that starting November the 11th and early January, mid-January, and I can offer that every 2 months or so. So do get in touch. And somebody said they've read my book, and I feel I need to read it every day. That's lovely to hear. You know, in terms of my book, but yeah, maybe we just need to connect to ourselves every day. So I'm just gonna, I don't know if I can do that. Yeah, I can. I can see if I can just put the link to the course page in the chat box in case anybody wants to see it immediately. Right, where are you? There. So there's all my courses, and so many light bulb moments. Thank you. And then here's one of my websites. Yeah, so I hope you can take a look at some of those. And let me just see if I can get you back. There you go. Yeah, and my dear husband is making my dinner, bless him. So I'm going to go. And yeah, thank you all for your comments. And I'll leave it there. Do drop me an email with anything else. I'm going to put that here. Any further questions, any thoughts, any ideas about the course, whether you want to join it or not. And remember that, yeah, the first step, the reconnect to your true self, that's on offer right now. So I hope you can take advantage of that. Right, I'll let you go. Thanks a lot, everyone.